Once again, I went digging through my bin of many projects today and decided I needed to work on this Lionel GP30. First of all, we need to test this thing out, so I'll give it some power. And now we'll go backwards. So this thing does actually run. It definitely needs a little bit of work, fresh oil, all that basic stuff, and I think this model should be a good engine in the end. So just a little bit of backstory. I got this thing in a lot off of eBay a couple months ago, and I'm just now getting around to working on it. There's really nothing cosmetically wrong with this model. It looks to be in really good shape. And what's kind of funny is I've actually owned one of these before. About 5 years ago when I was just first starting out in model railroading again, the first lot I ever bought from eBay contained one of these, and ironically, also one of these Seaboard GP18s. It's kind of funny that I have both of these at the exact same time now. I might have to restore this one next, I'm not so sure about that. But I just think it's kind of funny 5 years later to have the same two locomotives in the same paint scheme again. So we're going to start by working on this one, and maybe in a future video we'll get the other one done. So to start, I'll take off the shell. It's really simple on these, so long as you know how to do it. And we'll see if I remember how to. I've just got to pry up on the sides. I know this little fuel tank air cylinder thing is kind of in the way, and it makes it a little bit annoying, but it should not be that difficult. And I can put the shell off to the side, and there we go. That's all the internals of this model. Something of note about these models, which some of the Bachmann models of a similar era also share, is they have resin over these screws to tell if someone's been inside the motor before. I believe this was for warranty work or something like that. But these screws are still covered in resin, so I believe nobody's actually worked on this model before, which means I'll be the first one to work on it. And the first thing I'm going to attack will be a little bit boring. It's just going to be the rear truck. So there we go, the wheels are out of this thing, and something of note for these locomotives, and I'm pretty sure it's the case with these Lionel HO ones, they only pick up power from the rear truck, so all of our stuttering and whatnot would be down to these. And while these do have insulators on both sides, it does not matter what way we put them back in, because there's no metal in this truck, it's just plastic, and it's just these two pickups, so we really don't have to be worried about direction here. First, I'll set the wheels aside and we'll clean up the contacts on the truck and the wheel bearings, and then we'll move on to the wheels themselves. And just like that, we can put some fresh oil on the bearings right here, put the wheels back in the truck, close everything up, and then this part of the locomotive will already be good to go. And there we go, now we can move on to the front power truck. To start, I need to remove this screw and this little plastic piece right here, that way we can drop the motor down and out of the frame. After a brief little fight, I got the truck out of here, so now we can just kind of drop it down. There's one clip in here that's really annoying. I've struggled with them on other Lionel HO and Bachmann locomotives, but with a little bit of fighting, it came out. So now we can work on removing this truck cover, then I'll take a little break the resin off these screws so we don't strip them out, and then we can start tearing into this thing. So, as you can see, I'm back, and while I was removing the resin, I did notice something. This screw was stripped. So, I've been working for the past, I think, half an hour now trying to get it out. I've gotten enough of a gap where I can thread a screw through there. I don't know if I've removed enough material to where I can take this thing apart, but I think the best way to start is just try and remove these plates up here. This wire did break off, so we'll have to resolder that on later. But I did effectively get all the resin off these top screws. But I am going to replace all the screws anyway, since I'm already doing that for one. I'd rather have them all match, because if they don't, it'll kind of annoy me. Alright, so now I'm going to go off camera and see if I can split this apart, and I'll come back once it's in two pieces. So that way you don't have to watch me struggle with this thing on camera for probably 20 minutes. So that was a lot quicker than I was expecting. This is like 2 minutes later. It didn't take an insane amount of time, which is nice. So I'll just get all this apart. Then we can survey this damage and go over what I'm going to do with all that. So now I'm going to get the brushes out of here. Luckily, I still have some drill bits out, which are going to be just the right size, I think, to just pop the brushes straight out. And also the magnet, apparently. That can stay in there. So as you can see, my work here is really not perfect getting this bit out, but hey, it was a strip screw and I just started drilling at it, and that actually got it out. Really the only major damage of any real concern here is this little piece right here, which is one of the posts that it screws into. I did actually manage to thread one of these in here enough for it to hold together, so we'll see if that actually holds up. If not, I'm not too concerned. We've got 3 other points where it screws into place, and this is a really tight fit, so I think it should be perfectly fine. I've had engines before where an entire post, or both of these posts have been broken off, and it's still been just fine, so I'm really not all that concerned. I was just about to cut the clip and start cleaning up all the drilling mess that I made so we could continue working on this model, but I noticed something else really bizarre about this cover plate. You see this little thing here? I just noticed that when I pulled it out, this is a spring. Why is there a spring in there? I'm pretty sure this is factory since there was no sign of the resin being touched or anything. So I would have to assume it's been in there from the factory, and this is cracked. This one did not have a spring in it, and I've never seen anything like that in any other pancake drive locomotive. So if anyone has any clue what a spring was doing in there, please let me know, but that's a really weird, bizarre thing. I've never seen that before. Now that I've cleaned up and I've been thoroughly confused by that random spring, I've just laid all the parts out and gone over them. So I'm going to show you some of the stuff I've noticed before we start cleaning this up. And first of all, this kind of goes for all the parts here. They all look actually fairly clean. All the gears, everything. It doesn't look like anything major needs to be worked on. Same with the brushes. But I do have a few other little things to note. I still don't know why that spring was here, but this little post right here is cracked a little bit. I don't think that should impact anything, but it's something for me to keep an eye on. Same with this one here. If we really can only use these 2 posts, I would not be the happiest, but I'm pretty sure it would still hold the model together. This one, it is kind of important though, because that's where one of the brushes slot in, and I'd like to, be able to have brushes and make this thing a functional model. So hopefully that won't become any sort of issue. The other thing I've noticed, the commutator actually looks really dirty, so I don't know if someone did something to it. It kind of looks a little oily too, so it could have some oil residue or something on there. That'll need a really good cleanup. It also looks like the traction tire on this axle will need to be replaced. Luckily, the traction tires I have laying around that are kind of big actually fit on these things, so we can do that really easily. And one other little thing to note are these gears. Here, they're pressed on, but unlike the Bachmans, I've never had any issues with these cracking. So I don't know if it's a different type of plastic they're using or what, but essentially using the same process as a Bachman, it hasn't had the Bachman split gear issues, which is weird. And I've had one of these before, so this isn't a one-off fluke. Now we can finally get to work. I'll put the commutator and brushes off to the side for last, and we'll work on the gears and these plates first. Alright, I just took a little bit of a break to clean up that little pool of rubbing alcohol right there. I just wiped it up and now it's all gone. And I put the traction tire on the one axle that needed it. On these Lionel models, it's really only got the one spot that needs a traction tire. On most of the other pancake motor design engines, they have at least two, but this one, it's only one. It's kind of weird, but it works out just fine. And also, I got this little wire piece thing set up here, so now we can actually just strip this wire, solder these together, and then we can just start putting this thing back together. Well, that's not the prettiest soldering job in the world, it'll definitely get the job done. So now I can set this aside and we can work on reassembling the motor. So to replace the old screws, I'm going to be using some screws from this screw kit. I actually got these from some relatives as a gift, and these have actually been really huge lifesavers. I'm going to be using the biggest size on this. I'm really going to hope that that one hole will actually hold up and it won't break or strip out or anything, but we will see. That actually seemed to work really well. Before we go too much further, I do just want to make sure the motor will actually start. So I've got my controller turned off and set at full power right now. So now I'm going to turn it on and we'll hook up these leads directly to the motor, see if it runs. A lot of that noise is just kind of because it's sitting on its side, but that definitely seems really good. So now we can continue putting the rest of this thing back together. Since the old one was broken, I just put a new horn hook on the front of the model off camera, and now all that's left to do is to sit the shell back on the model. And now we can go give this completed engine a test run. So I've got the GP30 set up on the track. I'll turn on my controller, we'll give this thing some power. I'm pretty confident that this thing will run, but we will just have to see. And it runs great. I'm really happy with that result. I really do like these Lionel GP30s, and I'm glad to have another one in my collection, so I think this thing will be sticking around for a while.